Hey, welcome back. So the title's obviously a joke, but also not really, and let me explain. So I'm going to lay out an argument that AC is actually more of a skill-based game, disguised as a loot game. And I wanted to make a video because when I brought this up in the past, people get like weirdly defensive about it, saying that like you don't really need good gear to do everything in the game, and gear is like superfluous past the point. They're wrong, and I'm right, and I can pretty easily prove that. But before I get to that point, I'd also make the assertion that there's basically three things in AC that matter, as far as your ability to complete content based on like gear and build choices. That'd be melee D, summoning, and actually the third thing, steel tinkering your armor, which a lot of people probably wouldn't guess. Whatever else you do with your build is somewhat irrelevant in the scheme of things, which is good in one sense. It means there's not so much pressure to make like a good or optimal character. Like you probably want healing, you probably want sort of common sense choices, but you don't need it either. I've done HMD with no melee D and no healing, like at the same time in the same run. And like the first League in Levistrous, I did everything. I did all the hardest content with just like garbage gear. Not even like halfway to a legendary suit, I think. A lot of epics, untinkered armor, no melee D. Was doing sets of 30 legendary quests every day or every other day at a certain point. And I enlightened that character with all those build restrictions and quest weapons only as well. So like, if there's something more to the endgame of AC than enlightening, then let me know in the comments, because I'd like to know. I haven't found it yet. Like you can try to solo the really difficult aspirational content, which I did, but most players won't and have no reason to. And inevitably I'm gonna get comments like, oh, of course it's easy for you because you animation break or whatever. If you go back and watch my first Rented Recall video, which was the first time anyone had soloed it on emulator, there's like virtually no animation breaking at all. There's one or two casts, but the reason is I had only recently discovered like a few days before doing that, back in July of 2021, how to animation break. I didn't really want to try it, because I just figured it out and I wasn't good at it, and you don't want to die and reset your progress like an hour into this. So really it's pretty much all slide casting, and the other thing is just back jumping with the bow to reposition and be safer. And that really just reinforces my argument, because that's like 100% skill. Like gear wouldn't save you from being one shot by their rings if you weren't jumping, if you weren't moving, if you weren't, avoiding them. I heard that Rented rings have been nerfed, which is like kind of disappointing. I haven't tried it since, but that sucks. Anyway though, what I found in the league was that any other upgrade to my player power was going to be kind of minor compared to just tinkering my armor, and a big part of that is not having melee D right for that league. But yeah, the difference between like 0 tinkers and 4 or 5 tinkers is pretty fat, and that for me would have been more of an increase to my power than any amount of legendaries, any set, anything really. The optimal way to play the game on most of the content is just debuffing for your summons. Like on most of the legendary quests, using a weapon on top of your summoning damage is pretty optional, because a lot of them are just run to the end of a dungeon, debuff the boss, summon on him. A lot of them just don't have that much HP, like Liberation of Uziz dies before you can even swap to a weapon. And yeah, there's outliers like Jerain, where having a weapon is nice, but you probably just get one of the quests like slash weapons, like Singularity. Okay, but what about like soloing Hoshino Fortress, which, the boss has a decent amount of HP and it's a decently difficult fight? Unless you have melee D, then the entire game's a joke. No, I'm just, but I find the difference between like a really average weapon that you could find in loot and like a top end one pretty, I don't know if I'd say marginal, but like not life-changing. And that holds true of like most endgame player power upgrades in AC. Once you have summoning, you have decent melee D, and your armor's steel tinkered, there's just not a lot of places you can go from there as far as like really changing life for your character. Like you can run through content a little bit faster, but not that much. A lot of AC players, I think, look at the game on paper and say, oh, if I have double the DPS, then I'm going to complete content twice as fast. And yeah, that's not how that works at all. Because a large part of it is just like running through the dungeons and puzzles or objectives. You typically spend a lot more time just running than you do killing anything. So yeah, a large amount of the time to complete is just fixed, you can't change it. And then with Paragon weapons, it's like a cool achievement. What you get out of it is pretty marginal. I would never do it because it's a ridiculous grind, and I'd rather just be good at the game. And like respectfully, I think I'd probably complete a lot of quests faster than people who have gotten Paragon weapons. Mostly just down to a combination of skill and strategy. I would recommend checking out my video 30 legendary quests without gear, because that pretty much puts an end to the argument right there. Like I'm doing everything in a Scarecrow guise with absolutely no gear equipped. And I think it's a good example too of how absolutely busted melee D is. Anyway, the point I wanted to make in this video, just getting good at the game and ingenuity of your strategy is going to carry you a lot farther, or it's going to be way more of an upgrade to, you know, your capability as a player than any amount of gear. I'd say I've proven that during my time playing AC. Anyway, that's it. Feel free to leave some angry comments, you're probably wrong. Love you guys though, and I'll be back to drop another video soon. Until then, have an awesome rest of your day.